I missed my train, but apparently I caught something else's stare. And let me tell you, it felt like getting punched and kissed at the same time. New York Penn Station was chaos, the kind of chaos that made you question every life choice leading up to this exact minute. My backpack was digging into my shoulder, sweat clinging to my shirt, and the announcement board had just flashed the one word I didn't want to see: delayed. I groaned, muttering a curse under my breath, only to hear a voice calm, low, and oddly grounding cut through the noise. "Sir, your ticket?" I turned, ready to snap, but stopped. He was standing there in that navy blue Amtrak uniform, cap slightly tilted, clipboard in hand like some stern guardian of order. His face wasn't movie star perfect, but it was sharp, alive, magnetic in a way that made my chest tighten. His eyes, God, those eyes were the color of storm clouds right before rain, steady and unreadable. "This one's already expired," he said, glancing at my crumpled ticket. "You missed your departure." His tone wasn't unkind, but there was something about the way he looked at me, as if he could see past my late train, past my bad day, and right into the mess of a man I was. And maybe that was why, instead of arguing or sulking, I found myself blurting, "Guess I'm terrible at timing." A corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile, almost permission. That was how it started, the strangest, most inconvenient beginning to something that felt like it could burn and heal at the same time. I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to notice him. But life has a way of tripping you where you least expect it. My ex had dumped me 2 weeks earlier. A spectacular implosion involving lies, late nights, and a phone full of texts that weren't mine. I swore I was done with romance, done with stupid risks, done with looking at strangers like they held the key to my undoing. And yet, here he was. "Come with me," he said, motioning toward a quieter corner of the platform. His hand brushed mine in the smallest, most accidental way, and the heat that shot through me was ridiculous. He checked his clipboard, then looked back at me. "You can rebook, but the next train's not for another hour." I nodded, pretending like his nearness wasn't unraveling me. His cologne was faint, clean, woodsy, like cedar after rain. I wanted to lean closer to memorize it, which was insane. He was a stranger, a uniform, a man doing his job. "What's your name?" I asked because silence was too dangerous. He hesitated, as if the question carried weight. "Ethan." "Ethan?" I repeated, letting it linger on my tongue. "I'm Alex." The corner of his lip twitched again, that almost smile. "Well, Alex, I'd suggest not missing the next one. You should have ended there. Just a ticket inspector giving routine advice." But something electric hovered in the air, something reckless, daring me to step closer, to test the line between duty and desire. The station around us roared on, announcements echoing, footsteps pounding, people shouting into phones, but all I could hear was the quiet gravity of Ethan's presence. He had this way of standing solid and unshaken, like the world could spin off its axis and he'd still be grounded. And maybe that was exactly what I need, a man who didn't flinch, didn't scatter, didn't pretend. "You look like you've been running," he said suddenly, his gaze flicking to the sweat on my brow. "Running? Stumbling? Crashing? Take your pick," I answered. "It's been a week." Something softened in his eyes, the storm cloud gray shifting toward something warmer. "You'll catch the next one. Sometimes delays happen for a reason." I wanted to laugh, to ask if he always played philosopher while checking tickets, but the words died in my throat. Because maybe he was right. Maybe missing that train wasn't an accident, it was an invitation. Minutes bled into each other. Ethan stayed, even though he could have walked away. He leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed, but his eyes kept sliding back to me, like he was fighting some quiet war with himself. "So," I said, breaking the tension, "is this where you tell me I look suspicious and might be hiding something in my bag?" He chuckled, soft, unexpected, and devastating. "You don't look suspicious. You look distracted." "Distracted by what?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he held my gaze longer than was necessary, long enough that the noise of the station faded and my pulse roared in my ears. Finally, he said, "That's for you to figure out." It was reckless, dangerous, inappropriate, and it made my heart race like I just sprinted a mile. And then, like a cruel twist of fate, the announcement blared, "Next departure to Washington, D.C., boarding in 10 minutes at Gate 7. My train. My chance to leave. My chance to run." Ethan straightened, duty snapping back into place. "That's you," he said, voice clipped, professional again. I swallowed hard. Yeah, this was it. I shouldered my bag, ready to disappear, ready to let this strange spark flicker out before it burned me alive. But something in his eyes stopped me. That storm cloud gray wasn't indifferent Anna Marie, it was restless, conflicted, almost pleading. And in that split second, I knew leaving wasn't going to be simple. That was the moment I realized I hadn't just missed a train. I'd collided headfirst into something far more dangerous, far more unstoppable. Something that could break me, or maybe finally save me. I didn't get on that train. The whistle blew, the doors closed, and the crowd surged forward like a tide. But I stayed rooted in place, my chest pounding as if my ribs could no longer contain me. Ethan had turned away, clipboard in hand, jaw tight, every line of his body screaming restraint. And still I couldn't walk away. "Ethan," I called out before I lost my nerve. He froze, shoulders stiffening, then turned. His eyes found mine, and the entire station seemed to fall away, noise muffled under the weight of that stare. "I don't know why," I said, my throat tight, "but it feels like if I leave right now, I'll regret it." Something flickered across his face, surprise, longing, fear. Then he stepped closer, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "You shouldn't say things like that to a man in uniform." "Why not?" "Because it makes it harder to do the right thing." The right thing. God, how many times had I heard that phrase? My parents had used it when I came out. My ex had used it when he walked away. And now Ethan, with his stormy eyes and quiet steadiness, was using it like it could save us both. But what if the right thing wasn't right at all? What if it was just safe? Then maybe, I whispered, the right thing isn't what we need. His breath hitched, barely audible, but enough. He didn't move closer, didn't touch me. Still, the space between us throbbed with everything unspoken. That night, I never made it to Washington. Instead, Ethan and I found ourselves outside the station hours later, the city buzzing under neon lights. He'd finally let his guard down enough to walk with me, though every step seemed like a battle against his better judgment. "You're reckless," he muttered. "You're stubborn," I shot back. For the first time, he laughed, a real laugh, warm and disarming. And in that moment, I knew I'd chased that sound to the ends of the earth. We sat on the steps, watching cabs streak past, the humid summer air pressing against our skin. He told me about his job, the long hours, the routine. I told him about my heartbreak, the emptiness I'd been dragging like luggage. Somewhere between his silences and my confessions, something fragile but undeniable formed a thread, pulling us closer, tighter, inevitable. Of course, nothing that dangerous stays hidden for long. The next week I went back. And the week after that. I rode trains I didn't need to, bought tickets just to stand near him, to steal moments between schedules and announcements. Every glance we shared, every word we whispered in the margins of duty, deepened the crack in the walls he tried so hard to keep up. But shadows always linger. One night, after a rushed coffee near the station, he pulled away, his face storm-dark again. "This isn't sustainable, Alex," he said. "I can't afford distractions. People depend on me. My job depends on me. And what about you?" I demanded. "When do you get to depend on someone else?" His silence was answer enough. For days I thought it was over. He didn't answer my texts, didn't meet my gaze when I hovered near his gate. Felt like losing air, like drowning in a crowd of strangers. My chest ached in a way no heartbreak had ever touched before. Because this wasn't just about desire, it was about seeing him, truly seeing him, and not being allowed to hold on. But fate, cruel and kind as always, didn't let us end there. It happened during a storm. A blackout hit the city, stranding passengers, halting trains mid-route. Chaos erupted, people shouting, children crying. And there was Ethan commanding, calm, steady in the flickering emergency lights. Watching him lead, soothe, anchor the panic. Something inside me broke wide open. I helped where I could, passing out water, calming a mother with 2 toddlers. At some point, Ethan and I found ourselves shoulder to shoulder in the dark, our breaths ragged from the effort. "You don't give up, do you?" he asked, voice soft but strained. "Not on this," I whispered. "Not on you." His hand brushed mine this time, not by accident. For a heartbeat, he let it linger. And in that darkness, with the world suspended around us, Ethan finally surrendered. We didn't kiss right then. We didn't need to. The touch, the silent acknowledgement, was more powerful than any declaration. It was a promise that no matter how messy, how complicated, how dangerous, we'd find a way. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, Ethan let me in. Behind the uniform was a man scarred by expectations, by years of silence, by the fear of wanting too much. And behind my reckless humor, I was someone desperate to believe in love again. Together, we stitched something fragile into strength. We met in the quiet corners of the city, in late-night diners, in train cars rattling through the dark. Every time his hand found mine under the table, every time his eyes softened when no one was watching, I knew I'd made the right choice not to board that train. Our first kiss came one cold autumn evening, under the arch of Grand Central, where the constellations painted across the ceiling seemed to hold their breath. He leaned in, hesitant, as if the world might collapse if our lips touched. When they did, it wasn't fireworks or explosions. It was softer, deeper, the kind of kiss that rebuilt ruins and whispered of tomorrow. For the first time in a long time, I believed in tomorrow. Not everything was perfect. We argued, we doubted, we stumbled. There were nights Ethan pulled away, afraid of being seen, of losing the careful order he clung to. There were mornings I woke up terrified that this was temporary, that he'd vanish back into the uniform and leave me chasing shadows. But then there were moments, his hand reaching for mine in a crowded street, his laughter spilling unguarded, his voice saying my name like it mattered, that reminded me why I stayed. The day he introduced me to his sister, I realized something had shifted. We were no longer hiding in fragments. We were building something whole. "You're serious about him?" she teased, smiling at Ethan, who flushed crimson. He didn't deny it. He didn't run. Instead, he took my hand, right there in the open, and said, "Yeah, I am." Looking back, it's almost absurd that a missed train, a late ticket, and a pair of storm-cloud eyes could alter everything. But love has never been logical. It's chaotic, inconvenient, terrifying. And still, it's the only thing that makes the world bearable. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd boarded that train, if I'd played it safe, if I'd kept my head down. But then Ethan walks in after a long shift, uniform wrinkled, eyes tired yet warm, and I know the answer. I would have missed the only journey that ever truly mattered. Because trains come and go. But finding the one person who makes you stay, that's the real destination. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.